1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Dark. Hold.
Yeah.
I think it turned out well. I don't know. Maybe you should tell me.
Yeah. I mean, listening to it, it sounds so nice. And welcome to the Sit Down, where we have conversations with creators from across this beautiful, beautiful motherland of ours. My name is Makomboe, a filmmaker and an all-round story lover. And today we're sitting down with Josphine Obudo, who's an amazing freelance sound mixer, and she's been able to do on-location sound recording for films such as Lusala and TV shows such as Coke Studio Africa, just to mention a few. And today she's here with us, so sit down and listen in.
Kumbuka Lusala. Niko tayari. Kila kitu kitakuwa sawa.
You're not throwing him out. You're letting him be.
Why don't you just tell everyone why you kicked Lusala out?
Well, thank you so much for joining us again on this section of the conversation of the sit down. I think it's nice to start off by the most interesting thing about the podcast is that you talked about you discovering sound. What do you think you've discovered about sound so far? What have you learned about sound that you feel like is something you'd share to someone who's also trying to get on that journey with you? What have you learned about sound? This thing that no one knew about.
Personally, I think sound saved my life. I know people say this as like a cocky statement, but the reason why I say this is because when I'm not doing sound, I'm actually just sitting watching movies. And when I'm not at my house, I'm at my mom's house. Like, my world just started revolving around this one thing, which might sound obsessive or something, but for me, it gives me so much peace, because being able to see things come to life because of something you've done, being able to see how this movie wouldn't have been this because this was missing, or being able to just like listen to things people don't hear and be like, I want to record that. I live for that. It's such an interesting journey for me. And anyone who wants to get into sound, I'll tell them just start. By just start is don't sit down and assume it's easy, because it's not. One, there's a lot of maths actually in sound that we don't actually see. So we were doing some projects a month ago, and I kept telling these people, this has to get to this number. This has to be on this number. This has to be on this number. And they didn't understand why I was saying that. So they were like, what? If I do this, I'm like, it's right, but you try. So we all did our own little experiments. They were like, so how did you know that number will work? It's because when you're thinking about sound, you're thinking about different domains that you don't actually realize exist. There's the acoustic domain, which is what we are more conversant with. You speak, I speak, you listen to me, yeah? Then you move to the analog domain, you move to the electrical domain, you move to the digital domain. Like, it's just things keep changing. So what you think you're hearing with your own ears ends up not being what you record. And you're like, how did that happen? How did I do that? So paired with the right equipment, you end up getting things that you're like, I thought that place was noisy. I thought that location was bad. Get the right information, but don't limit yourself to what you know. I think that's the line. Just get the right information, but not limit yourself to what you know, because it's not going to always work out the same way. But the moment you have the fundamentals of it, you can do anything. Yeah.
And if you were to describe sound as a human being, how do you describe sound? What are its traits that you need to understand? If you were to date sound, what are the things that you tell your friend, this guy or this chick, how do you describe sound to someone?
It depends. when you want to describe sound in the sense of its attributes or its characters, I think it depends on what you're trying to achieve, because different genres have different ways of going about it. And for example, I like to make a reference to this movie, The Three Stooges. Yeah. If you watch The Three Stooges and then the next day you watch, what do we say? You watch Spencer Confidential. I don't know whether you've watched it. They are both they're comedies, right?
Yeah.
But one has comedy and action in it. One is just slapstick. Yeah. So if you listen to the sound and you are not watching the picture, you'd know these two things are different, just from how they've gone about it. But that's kind of a post-production process. When you talk about sound on location, your aim is dialogue. Dialogue is king on location. So yes, you want to record every other thing. But if we can't hear the actors, if their levels are not good enough, if we can't, if we keep asking ourselves, what do they say? You know, movies like that where you're like, what happened? And especially if it's on TV and you can't rewind, it's really annoying. So you can imagine if that happens like 3-4 times in one movie. So on location, our aim is to get clean dialogue that is intelligible, so to say, so that you can be able to understand what people are saying in comparison with the location. You don't want to make an airport seem like, you can't anyway, but you don't want to work so hard to make an airport seem like a small parking lot. You get?
Yeah.
It's a busy airport, it's a busy airport. And it also reflects on actors. So I think this is also something directors should know. At the end of the day, loud sounds will sound loud. Soft sounds will sound soft. So there's no way someone will be in an airport or in a club and whisper. It doesn't happen. So even the actors will have to adjust their lighting as much as they're acting, as much as there's no music in the club when you're recording. So there's things like that to consider when you're doing location sound. Your sound has to match what is being seen on camera. Yeah, you're not always aiming for, I want clean dialogue, rid of every noise. It's not going to be possible. It will start sounding like a studio. Yeah. Then when you get to now post-production, you have the ability to decide how you want your film to be. Like, is it a massive film? When you're talking about now things like Mad Max Fury, is it an intimate rom-com? Of course, you are not going to carry, even if I'm the same sound designer or same sound supervisor on Mad Max Fury, and then I go work in a drama, I'm not going to carry the elements from Mad Max Fury and just lay them on this movie. It won't work. So this relationship starts from the relationship you have with the director and the brief you guys have. So the director wants to tell their story, they have their vision, but ultimately you are the only one who's going to support that vision. Because if you decide to put like cheesy music, cheesy sound effects, you're going to make an action film a comedy, and that wasn't the intention. You're going to make like a sci-fi sound like animation or something. So you have to be very deliberate about what you're doing. So I wouldn't describe it as having a profile. It just depends on the genre and what you're trying to communicate. So every film will be different. Of course, people have specialized. There are people who just do, like, let's say sci-fis and all that, and dramas. But I feel like since our industry is concentrated more on drama, I think that's what we churn out more. Mastering it might be a bit easier than mastering any other form of sound design, because now we are getting into creation of things and all that. So it's also kind of limited to equipment somehow. So since we do mostly drama, I think our focus is getting good dialogue, getting good Foley elements to support it, getting good sound effects, if any, and balance it well, because mixing is also an issue that can affect your film. So there's this notion that technical crews don't read scripts. If you don't, you will fail. Because even as you're booming and you don't know who's going to speak next, What are you going to do? You will always be like. So it's something that I can describe as it's affected by how you want to tell the story and what genre of the movie is it.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Dark. Hold.
Yeah. Lakini I'm sure watu wengine wanakam.
Kama uko rada, kuna story imekuwa ikigo round, kuna maboys wanachukuliwa mtaani, wanapelekwa Somalia, wanafanywa masoja.
Kama mjitume, hii ndo nawapatia. Acha nikuongeze ingine. Hizi miaka zote wewe ni mahopes tu. Hawa vijana watakuwa tu kama wewe mwishowe. Mandoto tu.
Right. So
Tell me.
before we ask about it, tell me a bit about the film and the project before I go into my questions.
Your questions, man. Your questions. Okay. The story is about this guy who it's like based in a wood. You remember those social halls we used to have? Yeah, behind it. So this guy was teaching boxing to sort of just get the youth out of the street because of radicalization and stuff. So his friend, who the Coach's friend, who was actually recruiting the kids, used to like hang around the gym and all that. So he ended up recruiting people, and it was the radio motif is kind of trying to show the concern community and parents have about their kids disappearing, their kids being like taken to wherever, and then they come back as dead bodies and all that. So that was the story, and I thought that was very interesting. So I signed up on it, but we also had a couple of challenges. I think, have you watched the whole thing?
I've watched the whole thing, yeah.
So you notice we shot in a church.
I was about, because my first question actually was coming in, and I was about to ask. This was a very open, a space that had high potential of bouncing sound from every corner. How do you approach something like that? I guess, so I can just jump into that question as well. How do you, tell me about the sound process. How do you go see the location?
Yes.
How did that go about, and what was the thought process in how am I going to record this?
So we did the recce about, I think, a week before the shoot. The problem was there were other spaces that had been considered, but we needed county government approval. Since offices were not functional, this was proving to be hard. So we didn't have an option, and it was actually something we found last minute. This was like the last minute option, because now they had searched and and all the social halls they had gone through were not forthcoming, and some of the gyms they were being offered like looked either fancy or maybe they were too small to fit a crew. So this was like the last option. So we went to the recce for the recce. And this is actually the smaller church. They have a bigger church. So they came through. I was like, now, how are we going to make this thing work? Because, guys, this space is huge. It's big. It's a small church, yes, but it's big, according to the story you're trying to tell. And you can see the ring, as big as a boxing ring is taking less than half the space. I think like a quarter of the space. So it was a mess when we went for the recce. Like you could hear sound bouncing back like I don't know how many times. So the decision was, okay, let's look for another location. So we went for another location, recce. That one was too small, so it didn't work out. So they told me, okay, fine, we'll look for something else and let you know. So I think like 2-3 days later, they called me. They're like, we're not finding anything and we have to shoot this thing. What do we do? I was like, okay, we'll try and make it work. So I changed my main microphone. I got another microphone, So the main microphone that I work with, the pattern is supercardioid. And how the microphone works, it records sound from the front and back. And that's a disaster. So, because it will record what the people are saying.
And also get the feedback from the room.
Record the echo. So I had to change the mic to a cardioid mic. So a cardioid records from the front and really eliminates the back. So you won't get as much echo as you would with a supercardioid or a hypercardioid mic. So one, we changed the mic, we a bit padded the room a bit, and what you have to do in such situations is make sure you have close-up shots.
To protect.
Yeah, because if you don't have the shots, even if they won't use it, make sure you have it, because the closer you get your microphone to the source, the axis becomes a bit larger. So when you're talking about acoustic levels, sound pressure levels, it will become more sensitive to what is closest to it. So remember, when you're doing like a medium shot or wide shot, the mic is farther. So it's picking up so many other things. When you're doing close-ups, it's more sensitive to the actor's voice. So you can actually record that and not get any echo at all, any reflections at all. So the movie might favor it or not, but whatever you do, just make sure the director understands that, make sure the AD understands that, and the whole crew understands that. So when they're doing their short list, they have to consider that. That's one. When they're doing their scheduling, they have to consider that. But most importantly, you have to speak to the director, to speak to the actors about maintaining the same emotions, tonal variation, and saying the same lines over and over again. Because if I say I am going home, and then the next one I say I am going home, they won't match.
Yeah.
The lip sync will be off. So when everyone helps you and everyone understands what is happening, then the process becomes easier. But you see, you can't communicate these things if you don't know. If you don't know, then that becomes a problem. So that circles back to research. So that's one thing that really helped. Close-up shots. I think most of the sounds that were used were from close-up and medium shots. There are shots that didn't allow for the close-up shots. Remember, like the eye angle shots.
Looking down,
but we did cover shots. So I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not sure if I saw those shots, but we did them. So you see, on the eye angle, you can't boom. Because there's nowhere to put the boom. So you have to now depend on your lapels. So that's the other thing. You have to have different sources of audio. So if you can either blend the two sources, or if one fails, one works. Depending on the shot. Then the other thing was you have to be very aware of your settings. We call it gain staging. You have to be very aware of it, because now you're not only dealing with the reflections in the room, you're also dealing with things from outside. Like, there's so much happening. Then it's interesting how we shot this film, because the coordination helped us to be able to block bits and pieces of it. So when these guys are shooting, these guys are doing nothing. When these guys are, so there was a bit of coordination. All those gym sounds you're hearing, they are not done simultaneously. So there's some that we recorded in that space, but since on the third day we wrapped late, I had to go to another gym, recorded like guys boxing, someone jumping rope, someone lifting sounds, all that. We did a DR scene because now there was a bit of silence, so the director wanted to add some lines. So when we did that also, we were able to include more sounds and all that. Then the post team now was able to work with all these elements to make it whole, because now you don't realize it. You don't realize, because when I speak and someone is keeping rope next to me, it's going to always be in my dialogue. You can't, So that means you have to know how to control and work with the AD to control the environment for you, for everything that you need to do. So I think it turned out well. I don't know, maybe you should tell me.
Yeah. I mean, listening to it sounds so nice and crisp. I was like, really? How is this even possible?
You should watch it actually in high resolution, because now it's like the version you've watched is compressed. So yeah, of course, when you compress video, you also compress audio. So so it was a good shoot. The cinematography was really good. The acting, like everyone was on point, I'd say, according to me. But you are the audience who's also So that's what happened.
Yeah, and I think that's the best way to wrap this and say thank you so much for helping us understand the characteristics of sound and what it takes to get sound done. I think that was freaking amazing. If anyone wants to find out more, send you a DM. Want to learn something more, how do they find you?
So I'm just Josphine Obudo everywhere. Yeah, so Instagram, Josphine Obudo, IG, Josphine Obudo. So if you type Josphine Obudo, I think I'm the only Josphine Obudo that will pop up.
All right, have an amazing start to your day.
You too, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.